Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Brahmadakacharya Asidhara Sadushi Shiman His Divine Grace Shalisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo Slava Zabrani Bhaktam Slava Shri Guru Shri Gurangi Namo Vishnupad Krishna Prasthai Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatyade Sadarne Om Agyana Tivanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksura Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vidham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakan Dvidam Scha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishubhanu Siddhadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Trivyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, Questions by the Sages, text number 16. Kova Bhagavatastasya Punya Slokedya Karmana Shuddhi Kamona Shrinuyad Yashaka Malapalaham Kova Bhagavatastasya Punya Shlokedya Karmana Shuddhi Kamona Shrinuyat Yashaka Malapaham Tasya Punya Shokedya Karmana Shuddhi Kamona Shriyuna Yashakali Mahapaham Kova Bhagavatastasya Punya Shokedya Karmana Shuddhi Kamona Shriyunat Yashakali Malapaham. Ladies. Kova Bhagavatastasya Punya Shokedya Karmana Shuddhi Kamona Shriyunat Yashakali Mahapalam Who Va rather Bhagavata of the Lord Tasya his Punya virtuous Sloka Idya worshipable by prayers Karmana deeds. Shuddhi kama, desiring deliverances from all sins. Na, not. Srinuyat, does hear. Yasha, glories. Kali, of the age of quarrel. Mala apaham, the agent for sanctification. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Who is there desiring deliverance from the vices of the age of quarrel, who is not willing to hear the virtuous glories of the Lord? Purport, the age of Kali is the most condemned age due to its quarrelsome features. Kali Yuga is so saturated with vicious habits that there is a great fight at the slightest misunderstanding. Those who are engaged in the pure devotional service to the Lord, who are without any desire for self-aggrandizement, and who are freed from the effects of fruitive actions and dry philosophical speculations, are capable of getting out of the entanglements of this complicated age. The leaders of the people are very much anxious to live in peace and friendship, but they have no information of the simple method of hearing the glories of the Lord. On the contrary, such leaders are opposed to the propagation of the glories of the Lord. In other words, the foolish leaders want to completely deny the existence of the Lord. In the name of a secular state, such leaders are enacting various plans every year, but by the insurmountable intricacies of the material nature of the Lord, all these plans for progress are being constantly frustrated. They have no eyes to see their attempts at peace and friendship are failing, but there is a hint to get over the hurdle. We want actual peace. We must open the road to understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead and glorify Him for His virtuous activities as they are depicted in the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Verse again. Kova Bhagavatastasya punya shokeda karmana shuddhi kamona srinuyat yasha kali malapaham. Who is there desiring deliverance from the vices of the age of quarrel, who is not willing to hear the virtuous glories of the Lord? Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadhyade Satarane. Jnana Jagnena. Let's see. Jnana Jagnena Sankhya.
towards transcendental knowledge.
Yoga sannyasta karmanam jnana sanchena samshayam atmavantam na karmani nibbannati dhananjaya. Those who act in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated fashionally in the self. Thus he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches. So we look at Prabhupada's purport, he says, those who are engaged in the pure devotional service to the Lord, without any desire for self-aggrandizement, and are freed from the effects of fruitive actions and dry philosophical speculations, are capable of getting out of the estranglements of this complicated age. Prabhupada's purports are more or less quotes from the Bhagavad Gita. Again, I'll read. Yoga sannyasta karmanam jnana sanchena samshayam atmavantam nikarmani nibbannati dhananjaya. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self, thus he is not bound by the reactions of work, or conqueror riches. And the purport here in this today, he says, those who are engaged in the pure devotional service to the Lord, instead of one who acts in devotional service, who without any desire for self-aggrandizement, renouncing the fruits of the work, and are freed from the effects of fruitive actions and dry speculations, are capable of getting out of the estranglements of this complicated age. Yoga sannyasta karmanam jnana sanchena samshayam atmavantam karmani nibbannati dhananjaya. That's chapter 4, text number 41. So these are things to note. This is repeated again and again, that due to the effects of our lack of devotional service, we're entangled in fruitive actions for self-aggrandizement. And, well, self-aggrandizement begins selfish, and then fruitive actions also include, for instance, extended selfishness to one's family, society, nation, whatever. And then produces fruitive activities cover the consciousness, and they produce mental speculation. Mental speculation means to see everything except for Krishna. To think that everything is going on by something other reason than Krishna is willing it to go on. Then, if one is free from these things, if one is engaged in devotional service, and he's free from self-aggrandizement and fruitive activities and mental speculation, then he can actually make progress in devotional service. So devotional service is actually the process of increasing our devotional service in order to get free from selfish desires, either personal or extended, and mental speculation. To see things in relation with Krishna, that's reality. And to see things apart from Krishna is called mental speculation. Trying to figure out what's going on. And then the result, then if we reach the conclusion that Krishna is the cause of all causes, then that's the end of mental speculation. If we reach the conclusion that the void is the cause of everything, or that impersonal Brahman is the cause of everything, that's called mental speculation. Philosophical speculation is what is the cause behind this? And an intelligent person, Jignasu, searches out the cause. Now, if the conclusion is the void or something impersonal is the cause, that's called mental speculation. And if the conclusion is that Krishna is the cause of all causes, then philosophical speculation has reached its proper conclusion. And the result is Vonam Janamanam Ante Jnanamam Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sir Mahatma Sudurlabaha. After passing through many births and deaths, one who is actually knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So generally speaking, when we come to the Krishna consciousness movement, we're absorbed in fruit desires. I mean, after all, practically our whole education is about how to make money and enjoy the senses. If you have money, then you have varieties of opportunities for sense gratification. Sports, movies, sense gratification, whatever. So, how to make money, and then how to enjoy the senses to the maximum. What health foods you can eat so that your digestion is such you can eat anything you want. Everyone wants to find out what is the secret of becoming unrestrained in sense gratification. We can enjoy forever and ever. So then Prabhupada goes on, the leaders of the people are very much anxious to live in peace and friendship. Maybe some of them are. And then Prabhupada explains, but they have no information of the simple method of the glories of the Lord. On the contrary, such leaders are opposed to the propagation of the glories of the Lord. Nate vidu swartakatim hi Vishnu. They don't know that the purpose of life is to obtain Vishnu. Now why not? Prahlad Maharaj says, Matirna Krishna paratak satova mito vipadyeta grihavratanam adantago bir vishatam tamizram punak punascharvita charvananam. So matir means our consciousness. So the most important thing about human form of life is that we have an opportunity to use our intelligence so that we can change our consciousness from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness, ultimately Krishna consciousness. And of course the most important thing of that is utilizing our consciousness, our intelligence, so that our intelligence becomes purified. Activities performed in knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. In other words, hear knowledge, try to understand it, practice it to the best of our ability, and hope and pray to Krishna that we actually make some progress in understanding things properly. So that whatever we thought we understood becomes refined, we can say, and clarified. So we understand everything better, especially how to engage in loving service to Krishna and his devotees. If the end conclusion is that I've gotten so much intelligence from Krishna and now I've learned how to sell things better, I've become a better salesman, and therefore I thank Krishna for the great intelligence it's given me, and I'll come back next Janmashtami and give you a little donation. There are many devotees who come to the Hare Krišna movement. I don't know many, but there's some I know. They took to the process of devotional service, and then they actually got some intelligence. Their senses become a little calmer, their lives are a little bit more regulated. And now they get, after being purified from some of the miseries they were encountering, they decided now's the time to make money. It's called Hati Snan. The elephants go into the river to bathe, and as soon as they bathe and are nicely clean, they come on the shore of the river and throw all kinds of dust all over their body. So they became very clean, but now they decided to throw dust on the body, and therefore their bath really had no meaning. Similarly, those engaged in fruitive activities doesn't mean getting fruit, it means worrying about the result of the work. And generally speaking, that's because we want to increase either our sense gratification or our material comforts. In the beginning, most people, they don't care, especially in Kali Yuga, they don't care about so-called increasing your material comforts like fresh air and clean water, fresh food. Some people care like that. But it's so overwhelming. So many chemicals in the air, so many chemicals in the food, so much chemicals in the water. People have to spend their whole life just trying to avoid these things. And at the end they die anyhow, like everyone else does. So though they feel themselves superior because they've recognized that they're being poisoned in so many different ways, still, and even they avoid all the poisons, they can't avoid death anyhow. So they wind up in the same place with all the people who got poisoned. Especially if they don't have any higher goal of life other than just to maintain the body. So, Matirana Krishna, the consciousness is very important. What is the solution to our problems? Because obviously in Kali Yuga, we have so many problems. The weather, people, our own bodies. There's so many miseries, problems. Matirana Krishna. But materialists never think about Krishna as a solution. Even they have no other choice, they'd rather not choose Krishna. Instead, they're trying to figure out, personally they go on the internet, download self-help courses on how to make improvements in your physical well-being, your mental well-being. If you go to the bookstore, I remember I was researching health, doing a health course. I went to the bookstore and most of the books were about mental health. Because everyone's so disturbed. They don't even worry about their body. They're not even aware of their body. So there are self-help books, or they hear from experts who supposedly know the truth of how to lead us to happiness and peace in the world. Or a combination of both. But what actually is the conversation about? It's about Andanta Gobira Vishitam Tamizram, Punak Punas Charvata Charvananam. The conversation, how to gratify the senses. Namely, the sense of taste, the sense of the tongue, the belly, the genitals, the mind, anger, and words. How to satisfy them expertly. But the result is that Adanta Gobira Vijatam Tamizram, Punak Punas Charvata Charvana. We eat something today, and tomorrow we're going to have to eat something also. Now, today we ate something very delicious, tomorrow it wasn't so delicious. But after all, there's no progress. It's just doing the same thing over and over again. So tomorrow we'll eat something delicious, the next day something not so delicious. So it's just punak punas charvata charvanam. It's just chewing the chewed. But nate vidu swarthagatim vivishnu, they do not agree or they do not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now we can't say that we've perfectly accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because we may not be perfectly following Krishna's instructions. Like for instance, we don't have universal love for all living entities. We don't see everything and everything and everyone in relation to Krishna. We're not completely detached from our own sense gratification or our concerns about extended sense gratification. Therefore, we can't condemn everyone that you're not surrendered to Krishna, you're a demon and I'm a saint. It would be a little bit of a misconception on our part. We're aspiring to become devotees, and some people are aspiring to become demons, or being trained up by demons, I should say. So there's innocent people also. They're just unaware of reality. How can the whole universe come about by accident? Well, why aren't more accidents coming about all the time, for instance? If everything came out of nothing, why don't more things come out of nothing? So if people accept foolish philosophies because they're also been trained up to become fools. And because they've been trained up to become fools, they're engaged in excessive sense gratification, which has taken away their spiritual intelligence. So therefore it's difficult for them to understand that they're a spiritual being. Not everyone is equally covered, but in general in this age, people are quite covered over by the illusory energy. Not only they're covered over, but we're also covered over. Therefore, why are we identifying ourselves with this gross and subtle body? But at least we're making an effort to get out by the process of devotional service. But they themselves, because we're following an acharya such as Srila Prabhupada and our previous acharyas, and we're following the good example of those who are following Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas. But these leaders, Nite Vidu Swartikatim Hi Vishnu, Darashaya, Yebahir Arthamanina, they're taking something insignificant as extremely important. Doesn't solve any problems, just pacifies the masses temporarily. Or as Prabhupada once said, they went to the minister in India, and everyone was complaining that we're starving to death, there's no food. So the minister said, well, don't worry about it. Tomorrow we're going to have another new TV channel. Everything should be all right. Or as one lawyer, our lawyer in New Zealand, who was our lawyer, who used to be the prime minister, once told the devotees, all this entertainment and all this sports and things like that, they're just meant to distract people so they don't become so disturbed by the real problems that are being caused by the so-called leaders. Andaya tandira opigemanas te pisha tantra urudamivara. They're blind. They don't even know who they are, what the purpose of life is, and yet they're claiming to be leaders. And the people who are also blind, they're following them just by impression. People speak strongly with conviction, and the people who are doubtful and ignorant, they think, oh, here is a person who has eyes, he can see. But he's also blind. And when he's crossing the street, the blind leader, leading all the other blind leaders, he gets hit, and all the other followers, they also get hit by the cars because they chose the wrong leader. They're not leading them out of ignorance, they're leading them into ignorance. Or maybe sometimes goodness, but also into material consciousness. Naishamatis tavara rukramangri sprishat inarto bhagavani bharatam mihiyasam parurujay vishekam iskinchananam na nivriti tadvat. Naishamatis tavara rukramangri. That one should choose someone as a leader, Naishamatis tavara rukramangri, who's glorifying Krishna. Sprishat yanarto bhagavana nashat. One should touch the lotus feet of a person who's completely free from material desires. Mahiyasam parurujay vishekam. One should get the dust from his lotus feet. Naishamatis tavada rikramangrim sprishat yanarto bhagavan navashat. Mahiyasam parurujay vishekam. Iskinchananam na nivriti yadvat. One who's actually not working for his selfishly, or for some extended selfishness, or is free from desires, material desires, and free from, well, I should say, one who's actually engaged in pure devotional service to Krishna without any selfish desires or extended fruitive desires, who's free from mental speculation, that he can actually lead, he actually has his eyes open, and he can actually repeat the message of Krishna as it actually is. That's why we have Srila Prabhupada's books, and that's why when we try to give an explanation, we try to give it from Prabhupada's books. As Prabhupada himself in his purports, he's not giving his own explanation. He's quoting from different parts of Bhagavad Gita and other literature. But he's assimilating it according to his realizations to present it to us in a way that we can understand it. It's not the extent of his realization, but it's put down for our understanding. So if we actually want peace, we must open the road to understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. and glorify him for his virtuous activities as is depicted in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. So even the most important thing, as Prabhupada points out in the second canto, is not to hear Krishna's pastimes in the internal energy. We're not against Krishna's pastimes in the internal energy, in Vrindavan. But even more important for the conditioned souls is to understand how Krishna is working in the illusory energy, in this material world. His incarnations of Karnadakashaya Vishnu, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and Shirodakashaya Vishnu in our heart. It's not that Krishna is far away in the spiritual world. He's right there in our heart. He's in every atom. So how this material world is working and what we need to know in order to conquer our minds. And conquer the mind is, as it says, Yoga Sanyasta Karmanam, Jnana Sanchina Samshayam, Atma Vantam the Karmani, Nibbānati Dhananjaya. That one has renounced the results of his work, Yoga Sanyasta Karmanam, Jnana Sanchina, whose doubts are destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self, O son of Kunti, and he's not bounded by his works. Tasmad Agana Sambhutam, Ritstam Jnana Sanatmanaha, Chetvainam Samshayam Yogam, Atishto Tishtabharata. These doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance, O Arjuna, should be slashed with the weapon of knowledge. So we're walking around, we've been conditioned by material nature, and we're full of doubts. Now anyone who's in conditioned life and thinks he knows everything, that he's the greatest, well, he's quite a fool. If we ask ourselves, an intelligent person asks, what's going on here? And if we think we know exactly what's going on here, and yet we don't even know who we are, who we really are, then we should know we have doubts. We shouldn't hide them. Oh, I'm not going to ask a question. It appears that I don't know everything. And if it appears that I don't know everything, people may doubt whether I'm the supreme or not. So that's not why I'm here for. My whole life is meant to prove how important I am, how wonderful I am, how I should be the center of so many people's attention. And no one else, at least my dog, should take notice of me. And that produces so much imagination. We're living in a world of imagination, full of doubts and imagination. Yoga Sanyasa Karmana Tasman Agana Sambhutam Ritstam Jnana Tinasha. And how to get rid of these doubts? Well, first of all, recognize we have them. We don't know who we are. We don't know what's going on. We don't even know who everyone else is. We don't know how to relate to people. We don't know how to relate to anything. People think their best friend is a dog, and they're kissing on the mouth the dog. The same dog that's licking its behind to clean itself is now licking your face, giving it its remnants. And people think this is love. My dog loves me. Some people don't even know how to, they can't even relate to each other in a sane way, and yet they think they know everything. Therefore, these doubts which have risen in your heart should be slashed with the weapon of knowledge. Therefore, Bhagavatam is there. Krishna Swadharma Upagate, Dharma Jnana Dvisaha, Kalo Doshe Rine Rajan. What's that? Krishna Swadharma Upagate, Dharma Jnana Dvisaha, Kalo Nashta Drisham Evsha, Paranarko Dunodita. That this Bhagavatam has arisen like the sun. Krishna Swadharma. Krishna now is left for his abode. Krishna Swadharma Upagate, Dharma Jnana Dvisaha. When Krishna left, Kali Yuga started. Dharma, real religiousness, and knowledge disappeared. Kalo Dosha. Krishna Swadharma Upagate, Dharma Jnana Dvisaha, Kalo Nashta Drishameva. And therefore people have lost vision. They've lost sight of reality. Paranarko. And this Purana has risen like the sun to dissipate that darkness. That's why we're reading the Bhagavatam every morning. That's why we should all hear the Bhagavatam every morning. Even if you're not in the temple, you should hear a Bhagavatam. Sometimes in India, you try to hand someone Bhagavad Gita to sell them. They don't want to do it because they say, well, I did something sinful today. I can't touch the Bhagavad Gita. So that's Maya. Their chance to get purified, they don't want to take because they did something wrong. So don't touch it. Don't get near it. Keep on doing everything wrong. And maybe in the next Brahma's lifetime, you'll get another chance to touch the Bhagavad Gita again. And maybe it's a good day for you. Therefore, we should hear Shinvatam Swakata Krishna. Every day you hear the Bhagavatam. And every day you hear the Bhagavatam to understand what's going on in our lives so that we gain spiritual intelligence to improve, get out of the entanglement of material existence and into the improve our devotional service to Krishna so it becomes more strong and steady. Then our lives will gradually become successful. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the lecture. I would have two questions. It's very interesting that you mentioned devotees that after a while they decide that now they are going to start and earn money because, you know, everything is going well in their life. And it's very interesting because we just recently met such a person who after 30-something years in Krishna consciousness, she worked for more than a decade on one of ISKCON's biggest projects and with quite high authorities in our movement, and then she was disillusioned. She was discarded from her job and she was disillusioned with the authorities, and she decided that she doesn't want to involve herself so much emotionally as she did before. And she decided that, okay, this is the way to go. You earn money and then being detached, you donate something to the temples, but don't involve yourself emotionally. And I heard this before, this situation before, and in most of the cases I saw the person themselves being blamed for not being able to maintain their enthusiasm and to continue to follow the process despite the difficulties and them being treated badly. And I want to ask, why is the blame put on the person and not on those who treat them bad, even if they are authorities?
Well, it takes two to tango. You heard that expression before? Two people have to, if you're going to have a dance, you need two people involved in it.
Yes, I heard that expression.
So it might be true. The authorities treated the person badly, but it must be due to her karma also. Nothing happens by accident. So to think that only those who are treating us badly is because they've been assigned by the laws of material nature to do that because of what we've done in the past. Now, how we react to it is the most important thing. It doesn't mean we should keep on being in the same position and being treated badly, but there's so much opportunities. There's so many alternatives we have in just leaving everything and blaming it all on the bad authorities. And then I'm a good person, I'm a saintly person, no one should ever do anything to me because there should be no bad reaction because I'm perfect, powerful. But it doesn't work out like that. Tate nukampam susamikshamano punjane evatma kritam vipakam ridvagva bhuvir vidadanamaste jivetas bhakti sadaya bhak. That praying for Krishna's mercy and susamikshamano, seeing everything properly. That what is seeing, that I'm suffering from my past misdeeds. So I go on, read Bhagavad Vidyanamaste, with my body, mind, my words. I go on serving Krishna, and then I become eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom. Prahlad Maharaj, he was being treated so badly by his father, Hiranyakashipu, but he didn't complain. He went on with his service to Krishna in spite of all difficulties. Similarly, all the great devotees in the Srimad Bhagavatam, they were all, most of them were treated quite poorly, but it didn't impede their continuing on with devotional service. Dhruva Maharaj, the Pandavas, who's being treated nicely in the material world?
In my experience, those who don't do anything are treated better than those who do, and they make mistakes. Because those who do something, do some service, and they do it imperfect and they make mistakes, those are chastised, but those who don't do any service, they are not chastised because they didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, of course they don't do anything wrong. They don't do anything.
Precisely.
So they make no progress whatsoever. So if the aim is to avoid being chastised of life, don't worry, someone will chastise you no matter where you are. Someone will criticize you. Better to go to the North Pole and then let the bears come and eat you, because they won't chastise you, they'll eat you. So we want to avoid, we're so afraid of my false ego being damaged by someone. What's to be done, We're supposed to have our false ego damaged in order to make progress in devotional service. If we think, well, I'm being put in a situation where I have to become humble, how horrible. Well, if we don't put ourselves in a situation, one way or another, to become humble, then we have to come back for repeated birth and death, that's all. We'll never become Krishna conscious. We think we're this body, and our whole aim of life is just protect my false ego and my body. Not that we're masochists. We put our, if someone hits us and we turn the cheek and say, hit harder than the other one. So we have to find a proper situation where we can engage in devotional service, not give it up just because someone else mistreats us because of their own bad karma. Is that right?
Partially. This is something that I don't understand, because in this way that it's our karma, then we can say that, okay, yes, the criminal has his fault, but the victim deserved it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So the thing is, then this way of thinking kind of absolves a bit the
no, it doesn't
the criminal,
absolve anything.
Because he's like, we see these people who treat others badly. They are not held accountable for it.
Sometimes, externally, but every single breath we take, we're held accountable. Now, if you're Yamaraj, you'll be able to figure it out, how we're going to become accountable. But from our very short perspective on things, we think people aren't being held accountable. And then why we have so many plants outside, so many trees, so many insects? They thought they got away with it, but they didn't. No one gets away with anything. Every single breath, everything, every movement we take, every thought, we're being held accountable for. But whether we get the reaction immediately or not, that depends. At the end of life, Stalin was pointing up. He saw some people coming, obviously. And he was very afraid. He was pointing towards them, to his daughter. He was held accountable. But he had a karma that his karma was such that he was destined to hold other people accountable, to give them their bad reactions for their misdeeds. So he was empowered to do that. But ultimately he was held accountable for every misdeed he did. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you. I had a second question about devotees being depressed. Even though they chant, they come to the program, so they follow something,
yeah.
We see that a lot of devotees are depressed. I mean, I see them. I don't know if others see them, but I do see them being depressed. And I want to ask, how do we because you talk about psychologists and people going to psychologists and to counselors and such, and I want to ask, how do we inspire the karmis to come and join us if we are like, you know, all day we are showing that this process has not yet worked for us to get us out of depression?
What to do? Smile.
Yeah, but people, when they are depressed, they cannot force themselves. So the mind conditions them.
There are four kinds of devotees. There are, well, we can say three, but there are some who are in distress. There are some who want comfort. There are some who are inquisitive, and some who are seeking after knowledge, or have knowledge. So if you go to a hospital, do you think that everyone's going to be healthy in the hospital? Someone just walks into the hospital. He usually goes to the hospital because he's sick. So most people come to the Hare Krishna movement out of distress. So we see someone in distress, we just think, well, you came to the Hare Krishna movement, you're distressed, I guess the process doesn't work. No, it works, but it takes some time. You go to a hospital, you find someone sick, in the hospital, you say, we've been in the hospital for 2 days and you're not well. I guess the process doesn't work. Probably doesn't, but that's a different thing.
Yeah, but if you go to the hospital and you see people that after years they are still sick, then you start to doubt that that hospital
I certainly
is good.
I wouldn't have to wait till years. Probably go to another hospital. Go to someplace that works. But do you think everyone in the Hare Krishna movement is equally depressed after so many years?
Not equally depressed. They weren't equally depressed to start with, so... Some are. I see some that are more depressed than when they started.
Well, let me ask you this: considering what you were doing and how you felt, say, 20, 30 years ago, do you notice any change in your experience and your consciousness after taking to Krishna consciousness?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
So from this point of view, I cannot say I was never depressed. I don't know how it is, but I do.
Did you have more material desires before you came to the Hare Krishna movement?
Not really.
Nothing has changed.
No, like I cannot say that. Oh, I wanted so many things before I came here.
No, I'm asking. Nothing has changed in your life since you've taken up to Krishna consciousness.
Well, a lot of things have changed, but I don't know how much it's changed because, like in my mentality. Regarding to my desires, to my material desires. So maybe I can control them better.
Well, that's good.
So I could say that, but...
Did you do more sinful activities before you came to the Hare Krishna movement?
Well, we might consider the meat eating and such, so
yeah,
probably
we do consider that. So your life
but
is...
aside from that, nothing much has changed from the material point of view.
Well, at least you're not killing cows anymore. That's a good, pretty good. Are you giving donations? Are you doing some service to are you chanting Hare Krishna?
Yes, but I did that before. I gave donation before. I did not chant Hare Krishna, but I gave donation before, so.
Before what? When you were 3 years old, you were giving donations?
No, before when I was in high school, for example, or something. So it was a practice in my family. So from that regard, nothing has changed.
Anyhow, one time someone was stood up and said, Swamiji, how have you changed? How have you helped the world, this Hare Krishna movement? And Prabhupada said, has the Hare Krishna movement helped you? So the particular man said, yes. And Prabhupada said, that's how I'm helping the world. So some people have actually changed their lives. They were in a very poor situation, or anyone, they were maybe not in such a poor situation, but their lives have changed for the better after taking to the Hare Krishna movement. They're cleaner, they're more austere, they're more truthful, they're more merciful, for instance, at least that. They've given up a lot of bad habits, and they're working for the welfare of others. So, for many people, their lives have changed for the better. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna. When you mentioned this, that some devotees come to some point and then he wants to earn money, that this is same like elephant when he go betting, put dust on himself. But I'm thinking, because I'm young, that a man should do something from his life, also in this area. I have tendencies to do some business or something like that.
Yeah,
so is this wrong or?
No, what I'm referring to is people are in the Hare Krishna movement for some time, and that as an excuse to leave the Hare Krishna movement. They claim, I know one devotee, he said, I'm going to, there's different stories, but one devotee, he claimed he was going to go out and make millions of dollars and give half of it to the Hare Krishna movement. I never saw him again. I know one devotee in Los Angeles, he inherited some money and he went home to get it. It was $25 million at that time, which is like maybe $100 million now. So when he got the money, he sent back his dhoti, all his books and his japa beads, and said, I won't need these things anymore. So that's not sometimes unusual. I know a good number of devotees. They came to the Hare Krishna movement. They were off the street. They didn't know what to do. And then the Hare Krishna movement first it was devotees were going out and distributing books, so they got some experience of dealing with people, where they weren't dealing with people before. And then they started to sell other things too, and they became really expert. And then they thought, well, what into the Hare Krishna movement? I'm giving all my profit to the Hare Krishna movement. I can keep it myself and have a good life. So they left. Became good salesmen and left. But that's not, there's nothing wrong with business. Household, probably had spiritual sky, that all the householders were doing business and making money. But they were actually giving, the results to Krishna, one way or another. Either, if you make money to maintain your household life takes money too. That's all right, so that's used, but there's deities there, you're morning and evening and chanting Hare Krishna with your family. And then you're giving something to the temple too, to spread Krishna consciousness. So that's supposed to be household life. Otherwise, why have if the Hare Krishna movement was, you're a brahmachari for some part of your life, and then you get married, and the next stage in your life, you don't make any money, you live underneath the tree near the temple with your wife and children. And you come to the program because it's the only thing you can afford is a tree to live under. That's not what the Hare Krishna movement is suggesting. No, earn money honestly as much as possible and live, a proper household life and give some percentage, something to spreading Krishna consciousness. Anything else? Hvala, Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Pimanande.